Join Gator great Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. You're looking live at PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It is Monday. We'll have JC here. We got a lot to talk about today. NFL, NCAA National Championship, FCS Championship, basketball, early enrollees on campus. Anything you got, bring it to us today here on the Titan MR hotline or Facebook or YouTube. JC, good morning.
Yeah.
You're on the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Duffield Home Improvements. What's happening?
Yeah, great weekend of sports, man. I think with the game tonight to look forward to, we had a lot of things going on this weekend. Great crowd at the arena on Saturday, 10,000 plus. Kentucky in town. The one thing I can't get used to, QB, is when these teams wear their home uniforms on the road.
Well, the reason we did is because Kentucky is the big blue nation. So we didn't want them wearing blue at home.
Right.
So we wore our
orange.
We don't wear those very often, but
no. But listen, I think Florida.
That was a good change up.
Yeah, it was extremely entertaining game. Loved the up and down pace. Gators, Clayton with 23 points. I think we had something like 90 points in the second half, QB. Lots of excitement. Florida, 40 rebounds in the game, led for most of the game. But I think their undoing in this one was the free throw shooting. You miss 11 free throws, and 18 to 29 at 62% is going to be tough to win with in a close game.
Well, that's about their average on the year. We've talked about it multiple times. Not a great free throw shooting team for whatever reason. But it was a fun game to watch.
It was, yeah,
and
it really was.
I mean, I thought we played really, really well.
Reed
Shepherd didn't really get going. We did a good job on him, but you move on, you lose that game. I think this team's going to win a lot of games. Calipari said Florida could easily be undefeated. Lost a lot of close games, four very close games, but you got to find ways to win games moving forward. So we'll take your questions or comments about basketball. Andy says, my beloved Jackrabbits win another national title.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I mean, the Dakotas own the FCS, QB. Is that not the case? I mean, here we have South Dakota State instead of North Dakota State. No problem with Montana. But QB, in the SEC with this league, I think it's come down to really right now you have 3, maybe 4 teams at one level in this league. You have Tennessee, you have Auburn, you have Kentucky, and I think you could probably throw Florida in that top 4 level. And then underneath that, Texas A&M, LSU, and the rest of them, Alabama maybe, but South Carolina, Georgia. But really, I think in this league, there are 4 teams that separate themselves from the rest of the pack. And it's a long grind through the next month and a half, or rather 2 months. And it'll be fun to see how they maintain themselves on the road and then playing at home. Conference play is a different animal. But Kentucky, Tennessee, and Auburn right now, I guess you could say. And if you want to chip Florida in there, that's fine. But those are the teams I think that are just a touch above the rest of the league. But the league is tough this year, I think.
Yeah, it's very, very tough. No question about that. Tim on Facebook Live says of Michael Penix now. Heisman voter, never seen him play, I guess. Buddy just didn't he didn't know much about Michael. When we had Buddy was on last week, I guess he hadn't really watched a Washington game. And so
he voted
crap about that.
Well,
yeah, he didn't vote. I don't think Michael Penix was in his top 3 though. Gators yesterday was move-in day for the early enrollees. They're on campus. They start class today. If you missed it, Emmett's kid who committed a year or 2 ago to Stanford went into the transfer portal and is going to be an Aggie. Emmett's daughter was also an Aggie that played soccer there. So I don't know if he'll get any playing time, but just wanted to throw that out there. Tonight, the national title. JC, just briefly, and we'll talk more about it before we jump into the NFL, which was playoffs are starting. Yesterday was a great day.
It really was.
What do you think about the game tonight? Why do I get this feeling waking up today that I feel like Michigan is going to control the football and just run it right down their throats?
I think it's
Why do I feel that way?
because you've seen Washington play in something like 10 single-digit score games. They play close games all year long, and they've somehow managed to win them all. But it could go one of two ways. And if it does go that way you just described, I think Michigan's got a clear advantage. If it goes the way other people think it will go, with the over coming in at 56 and Michael Penix doing what he does, and it's a high-scoring game, I think Michigan can keep up with them. But I think that would favor Washington. This is the fourth CFP game, QB, that has been played between the first and second-rated teams. Each of the previous times, the second team won. Each of the previous 3 times, the second number 2 rated team won. Michigan, I think, will. Let's see, what are they? They will try to pressure Penix, but Washington, unlike Alabama, is a team that protects better. They have allowed only 11 sacks this year. Alabama,
well, a lot of that has to do with the quarterback.
Right. But, okay. But still, I think 11 sacks, when you think about it through the season, is a very small number. And by comparison, Milroe was sacked 38 times before the Michigan game. And I still don't know how Georgia didn't get to Milroe. I don't know how that happened. But
those stats are somewhat misleading, because when I say that, it's due to the quarterback, because quarterbacks can get the ball out. Penix knows where to go with the football immediately. If he's pressured, he's going to throw it away. Milroe does not do that. Milroe is going to try to make plays with his legs. You're talking night and day with those two guys at quarterback, in my opinion. Let me get to some of these YouTubes brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Michael says, Shane, we'll be interested to hear your comments, discussions, thoughts on Princely Humilialien, I can't ever pronounce his last name, comments regarding the strength and conditioning coach and how they were trained the last couple of years. It's eye-opening. I did not see it, Michael. You have to fill me in or send me the article. I'm not familiar with that at all. Rod says on YouTube he thinks Penix goes off tonight. He could if Michigan plays a lot of man coverage, because Washington's got some tremendous wide receivers. But I just feel like Blake Corum and the physicality of Michigan is going to take over at some point in the game.
Yeah.
And go from there.
Now let me throw a number at you there, QB. The Wolves, and I know you don't really hold much water with this, but they are 0-4 in AP rated 1 versus 2 matchups, and that's the worst by any team in the poll era since 1936. So
is that a trend, JC? That really
that could be considered what they say is a trend, but I don't know if it has anything to do with
the team this year has nothing to do with the team in 1950.
Just like, QB, I just like throwing out these little stats once in a while. It's something to think about. But no, this team, Michigan, proved it to me a week ago. I didn't think they had it in them. I mean, when you saw them miss tackles in the early part of that game and fumble a punt and these kinds of things, I thought they were in for a long day, and it just what didn't happen. And so give them credit. I did. They are here. But this team they're playing tonight is unlike any team they've played all year, and vice versa. I think the Washington Huskies have not seen a team as imposing or physical as Michigan will be as well. So I think we're setting up for a great game. I'm going to take the 4.5 points. Though. If you have to bet it, I don't know how you don't take the points. You're looking at a field goal type game, in my opinion. Now, maybe not in yours, but I think you're talking about a close game.
I don't really know what to think right now. A couple of people here asked about Quinshon Judkins being a Gator. I don't think there's any way possible that would happen. He visited Ohio State. I still think he's going to be an Auburn Tiger. We don't have the money to pay him. I think people forgetting that I think colleges, and plus he was an issue in the locker room from what I've been told at Ole Miss. But it's just like the NFL, man. You don't waste a whole lot of money at that position for whatever reason. All right, JC.
Yes.
I don't want to talk about this anymore, but I had to bring this up because we got a text over the weekend. Let me read some of these texts real quick, and then I'm going to get to this one. Then I want to get your thoughts on it. First of all, this is from Paul in Pensacola. It says, Shane, is there something going on behind the scenes with Riley Kugel? He's a great talent, but he's pressing too much and making turnovers. Seems to be pouting all the time. We had Chris Harry on Friday, and Riley Kugel was like 0 for 25 in his last 3-point shot. He played pretty well the other night, coming off the bench. He's a talent. But he's not good enough to be playing with this team right now, but he's got to get his act together. But
That's
I don't
right.
know if there's anything going on. Daryl says pro football died on the first coast yesterday. The Jaguars have been on life support towards the end of the
Oh,
season. They had the plug pulled on them in Nashville. They do this all the time, get us all excited and let us down like the
well,
Undertaker at a funeral.
they didn't last year. I mean, last year they exceeded expectations. This year was clearly a story of injuries, I think, and just some unfortunate things that happened. Look, when they left England, that team was 6-2, 6-3, something like that. They lost 5 of their last 6 games, and it all started with Christian Kirk. You can ask any of your Jaguar guests that you have on the show; they will all tell you, including Frank, that when Christian Kirk went down, the downward spiral began. And then Cam Robinson went down on the offensive line. And then another guy went down. And then, Lawrence got hurt with the shoulder. Then they lost to Cincinnati inexplicably because Jake Browning played the game of his career. Okay. Those were the reasons why the Jaguars are out. Now, I don't think it was so much as yesterday. Even if they had won yesterday, Cleveland comes in here and kills them next week. So that's
what are you going to do about your season tickets, JC? Are you going to give them up?
Well, unfortunately, I was gonna get 2 of them for the playoff game, but I'm not gonna get 2 of them for the playoff game. They've automatically enrolled me for next season, so I'm gonna give them 1 more year. We're gonna see how it goes next year. I think they're a playoff team, I really do, but they just I think ran out of players. I really think the injury issue was the problem. Now everybody's gonna say, well, JC, everybody's got issues, everybody's got injuries, blah 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 blah. Okay, that's a fact. But when Lawrence isn't 100%, and clearly I don't think he was, you could see how he's throwing the ball. He's not right. And they're not on the same page with the receivers. And so I think it was just a bad December. It was a cruel December. Season's over. Now we've got 7 teams in each conference that are going to give us quite a show. I think we've got some great games lined up for next weekend. 5 games on Saturday and Sunday. But what was it, QB, that you said you didn't want to bring up that you were going to bring up? And you wanted my.
I'm going to get to it. 1966 HBC beers available at Spurs Gridiron Grill, Gator Games in the O-Dome, and select retail outlets. Crisp American Lager, 1966 HBC beer. All right, I got to finish these texts real quick, the ones that I chose here. This is from 941. It says, Jazz got bullied. Peterson gets too much credit for the team he didn't build. Lawrence and Etienne are overrated. It says, Billy has to keep it up in the portal and grab some serious impact players. Nice to see that he's been more aggressive in year 3. Still needs to add more guys, but I don't understand, why is he just now getting aggressive in the portal? Why not in year 1 or year 2? Needs impact guys. I mean, we had Osiris Torrance, you had Montrell Johnson, you had Ricky Pearsall. So his first couple of years, he brought in some good guys. All right, we're going to talk more NFL in just a second, but this, I want to get your thoughts on this, JC, and then I'll give my thoughts.
Okay.
Let me find it. It's back to the University of Florida Athletic Association, Gator Boosters, and NIL. This gentleman says, this is from the 917, which I think is in New York.
Okay.
He says, I agree that we have a lot of boosters not bought in on buying players, but it is Strickland's job to sell them on doing so. It's the same as recruiting when you say players choose where they go. I agree, but it is Billy's job to sell them on coming here. I can't tell my boss, well, the customer just chose to buy a different product. It's my job to sell them. If they don't put their money in NIL, we won't have to worry about the swamp upgrades or new facilities.
Well, okay, 2 things. A, you always have to worry about upgrading the facilities because it is an arms race and you have to keep up. That's 1. But B, I've always said on this show, QB, since we were doing it on the radio station, that this was a sales gig. It is about sales. And I think Billy has done a good job with some of these players. But I think the problem when you sell something is that when you have a track record of losing football games, it's kind of hard to do that when everybody is counter-selling against you. Oh, you don't want to go to Florida? Are you kidding me? That guy is lost. You don't want to go there. Come to A&M. Come to State, come to this, come to that. The biggest thing that will change the fortunes of this team is to win some football games.
Right. But my argument to that about sales, I get that.
Yeah,
but
it is.
Again, I try to tell people, if I'm a billionaire, if I am ahead of Tyson Chicken at Arkansas, and I said, okay, here is a blank check but it is going to this facility. It is going there. I'm going to tell you where my money goes. You can
Sure.
sell me all you want, but I'm
Right.
telling you where I want my hard-earned money to go.
Yeah, we've
Okay?
talked about this too.
They can
QB.
sell their ass off, but you're not going to change my mind on what I want to do with my money.
True, but you can influence the direction of the funds. You can say, well, you can sprinkle 70% of it into that building and so forth, but we sure could use a little help on the player acquisition side.
Right. And here's my argument to that.
Okay.
Here's my argument to that. JC, I give you, you're the head of NIL for School X, and I give you my money to go buy these players, and my players ain't real good, and my players ain't playing a whole lot. Now, how do you think I'm going to feel about my investment right there?
See here, because I don't know, and I could be wrong about this, but a lot of these uber wealthy super boosters aren't tracking these kids out of high school or in the portal as hard as the coaches are. They have to put their implicit trust in the coaches and in the administration to find those guys. And here's the money to do it. Good luck. Don't mess it up or you'll be out of here. I don't think anybody running a trucking company in Lake Butler has a clue or cares about the transfer portal. He just wants to see action and he wants to see results on the field on Saturday. And I know one person personally who told me that. He says, I don't have time to keep up with that, JC. I just want the damn thing to work. I said, I get it. It's kind of like when you look at those Mack trucks up there in Lake City, So anyway.
So David says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Melon, we have the Gatorade Player of the Year from Texas, from Mississippi, Florida, and we also have it from Maryland. He left off. Who aren't we selling? He's getting the roster needs. So everybody's going to look at it differently. But I'm in sales myself, and
sure.
I get it. But sometimes I think people that are Gator fans only think this is the best place to go.
Right. No. And again, that's correct. Yeah. The days of 06, 07, 08, that glorious 3-year period that the school has never seen and probably will never see again in terms of success on the field is long gone. But that doesn't mean you can't start up something new and fresh and exciting for this generation.
But JC, let me ask you this, because All About Blakely here says it doesn't matter. He is right. Scott and Billy have to sell NIL to these boosters. Well, it's not like they aren't trying. That's my point. The point of it is, I think people think we just don't even care, but that's not the case. And as I told you,
I don't think that's the case.
I've played this game. I support the school, but if I was one of the major donors, I ain't buying a player. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
I'm not paying him until I see him perform.
Right. Okay? And it's a very tricky situation, but you need a guy in there who's aggressive and who isn't as passive. And I think coaches the way he sells. And I think a lot of folks are disenchanted with that because they don't see that aggressiveness on the field on Saturdays. So we'll see. I mean, face it, QB, he's got another year, maybe 2, and he's got to turn it around. Otherwise, we'll find someone else. Simple as that.
Yep. Mike on here says, what do you think about E.J. Smith transferring to Aggies? I mentioned that earlier. Wants to know if the Gators are in the mix. I don't think so. I don't know if he'll play for A&M. He probably wanted to get closer to home.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Tim says, why doesn't the Florida Victoria sell their own deals? Coaches coach. Yeah, it's all connected though. But I just firmly, I know it's all about selling, but you can only do so much. The individual is going to make their decision. It's just like I try to tell you, if Financial Investment Group X called you and said, we're going to offer you this, JC, and this over here, what you're making, you're going to take no more money for the most part.
Yeah, a lot of times that is the case, but I think it also it evolves around opportunity. It evolves around family. It evolves around just a lot more than just the money. Because if it was just about the money, and we've said this before again, then Texas A&M would have no problem winning everything. But that's not what happens, is it? So I think there is a little bit more nuance to it, and certainly you have to sell something that is attractive to the mommies and the daddies. Because in spite of this, you get an $800,000 offer to go here, but then there's $650,000 to go here, and it's a lot closer, a lot more fun, a lot more things could happen. Friends are around. You might think about it that way too. So it just depends on what the situation is and what the person is like. But you want a certain player here too, QB. You don't want somebody who's going to come in here and then just give up 12 games in the season, transfers out. You got to look for some character in these kids and some personality that matches what you're trying to sell into your culture. I think culture is a part of it. You talk to Kirby Smart, you talk to Nick Saban, you talk to these coaches. They don't just sell this machine over here and that room over there. They sell a way of life and a culture. I truly believe that is a problem with Lincoln Riley and people like that who just go back and forth and try to figure out how to score as many points as possible and ignore all the cultural aspects of it. I think there is a cultural aspect that the teams that win have. Dabo has it at Clemson. And Kirby, he'll talk to his players a different way maybe than some of these other coaches. And same with Saban, same with the other coaches that are successful. I think Ryan up there at Ohio State is having an issue with that right now. You never heard of 18 players leaving Ohio State. That is out of the question. And now it's becoming part of the story. And that
there's a bunch leaving Georgia and Alabama too now, Jason.
Well, there is, but there is. Okay, that's true. But again, I think culture does have a lot to do with it. You have to establish that.
Yeah. Rod says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plum, Richie Leonard's dad came out and said his kid left because he wasn't getting enough money. This era of college football is just depressing. I'm telling y'all.
Well,
it's all about money.
Nobody in Houston tonight is depressed, and nobody in Seattle a year ago thought they would be in this position despite the financial aspects of the game. They found a good coach, and they found a quarterback who followed that coach, and then he sold it on a lot of other things. And Washington is not here by mistake, and neither is Michigan. And so I think you're going to have a fantastic game tonight. So if college football is dying, you can't convince anybody in Houston tonight that that's the case. And you've got two teams that nobody was thinking about playing each other in the championship game before the season started. Maybe Michigan, but damn sure not Washington. So it can happen to you if you get some players that come together and have a magic season. And Washington's having it.
Radware is a family-owned business that prides itself on excellent customer service while providing quality and affordable promotional products and customized apparel. We got JC here. All right, we're going to switch to the NFL, JC. We got a text on the Titan Mar text line. Chris from Cottondale says, as a Dolphins fan, I just want to say Tua is not a high-level QB. Should have never been drafted at number 5. Never been a fan. Afraid they are about to give him a lot of money and be stuck with him and fall back to the cellar.
Well, it's easy to say that after what we saw here in the last couple of weeks. Miami has been, again, another story of the injury issue. And when you lose your best players around your quarterback, it does change your quarterback, doesn't it? I mean, not having Mostert, not having Waddle, not having a lot of these guys on the on the defensive side of the ball with Chubb being out. I heard Michael Strahan yesterday call him Nick Chubb. I mean, it's like there's such ignorance out there. But no, the issue is that they're missing a lot of guys, dude. And they're not the same team. And yet the quarterback's not going to play the same way when he's missing the players that he had all year long. You can talk about Tua all you want. Tyreek Hill loves the guy, okay? So they're hurt, and the Dolphins now have to travel to Kansas City. It is going to be 14 degrees and 8 as a low in Kansas City after a snowstorm blows through there this week, and it's not going to be fun for the Miami Dolphins. Meanwhile, Buffalo, who 6 weeks ago was maybe not even going to make the playoffs, is going to be playing at home potentially for the next 2 weeks as they get ready for the Steelers, who, by the way, found a quarterback and is a much different team, and that could be a really entertaining game in Buffalo next week. So, I think the playoffs in the NFL are going to be outstanding. They're going to be fun to watch. My goats are playing the Motown. What a storyline between Matthew Stafford going back to Detroit to play Jared Goff. Oh, that's going to be outstanding offensive football. I think we'll have two teams that are relatively healthy playing, going up and down the field. So,
all right.
I love it. I think the
NFL stay on the NFL, but I got to read some of these YouTube brought to you by Quality Plum. And Richard says, this is interesting. Why should I pay for some academically challenged player to get into UF when my granddaughter with a 4.3 GPA and outstanding test scores can't get in?
It depends on what you want to do, Richard. You don't have to pay for some academically challenged guy. But did you like Wilbur Marshall when he played here? I mean, the thing is that it depends on what you like. So good for your daughter. Keep it up. Maybe she'll be an executive at Honeywell one day. So that's just as important and just as exciting. So I don't think you should if you don't want to.
Kevin in Punta Gorda on the Titan Our text line says, Shane, a few moments ago you were discussing the NIL boosters and fans. Fans must try some objectivity. For example, my daughter didn't get into UF but got into Georgia. She was concerned I'd be very upset. I told her she could go wherever she wanted to get the education she wants. I would not say a word or influence her. Objectivity.
Good for you. Whoever that was, good for you saying that to your daughter. I said the same thing to my son. You said the same thing to yours. I think it's their life. They get to choose. I love that text that you just read.
Well, she probably would have chose Florida if she would have gotten in, is what he's saying.
No problem with that. No problem with that. But Florida has changed it. They're turning into an international type of institution where I think a lot of their standards are it's a different school, man. It's just a different school.
Yeah, for sure. All right, back to the NFL. I love the Buffalo Bills. I think Buffalo and Baltimore are going to end up playing in the AFC Championship game. But as you mentioned, it's going to be great to see Stafford going against Goff.
In the NFC.
Yeah.
I
tell you, the Cowboys better look out. They got to play the Green Bay Packers, and Jordan Love is playing really, really well right now.
I would 1,000% agree with you if the game was in Lambeau, but in Dallas, they're 16-0. They just are a different team there, QB. I think they'll beat Green Bay by double digits. And I don't know why. I think if the game was in Lambeau, I'd agree. I'd almost pick Green Bay to win. But by the way, it's like my son was telling me this thing at UF. He says, you take your exams nowadays on the computer and you can be anywhere you want. It's not the same. Nothing's the same anymore. Forget about those days. But no, getting back to the Dallas, they are a different animal at home. And if they were playing in Green Bay, I would agree.
Large Fry on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says, my daughter's an honor student at FSU, and I throw up in my mouth every time I go up there.
I would be, well, I can't tell them what to think, but.
All right, so JC, we have two coaches in the National Football League that have been fired. Arthur Smith with the Falcons.
Oh, there'll be more.
I guess everybody's going to think Kirby's going to take over that job. But Ron Rivera, do you think Bill?
Well, you just slipped that in, and we talked. I told you about this a month ago.
No. I don't buy it 1 second. I'm just saying I don't buy it one bit. Do you think Bill Belichick's the next coach of the Washington Redskins?
Either that or the Chargers. And if I was Bill Belichick, I would pick the warm weather and a great quarterback. That's what I would do because they don't have one in Washington. I would have due west.
I like their quarterback
in Washington.
Yeah, I like Sam Howell. He threw for more yards than I think anybody this year. Or close to it.
Is he going to win a division for you?
Maybe. Luke, he needs help. He can't do it all himself.
No, he really does need help. Washington's is a rebuild, dude. I don't think Belichick wants to rebuild anything. I think he wants to go somewhere where he can win now. You can't win now at Washington. You got to go. The Chargers, man. If you get that team, you get those players right, and you show them how to win games, and you've got a quarterback like that, and you get some of these guys that were out for the season, like Mike Williams, back in the lineup, and you've got players on the defensive side like that safety. Who is it? You know who I'm talking about. He's Derwin James, and you got Khalil Mack, and you got players on the defense. You can do some damage out there in LA, and that's what I've never figured out is why the Chargers can't win. Why that team just doesn't know how to win. It's because they haven't had the right guy there. I would go dead right to Los Angeles. If Spanos ever wants to win, he opens up the book and says, Bill, this is your team as long as you want it. And that's what I would think.
Tom says on Facebook Live, Shane said Redskins, glad he is not woke. I ain't woke, whatever woke means. JC, I saw this. I took a screenshot of it, the National Football League. You know who Montez Sweat is?
Yes, I do. He played
for Montez Sweat.
State, and he's at the Chicago Bears.
Well, he used to play for the Commanders or the Redskins, as I like to call them.
Yes,
so he was traded. He became
the
first. Listen to this stat. He became the first player in NFL history to lead two different teams in sacks during the same season.
Wow, good for
him.
He
had 6.5 for the Commanders, and then they traded him to the Bears, and he had 6 sacks for the Bears.
Well, the Bears need to sign him. Listen to the Bears. Ready for this? They've got the first pick. They've got the 10th pick overall. They've got to decide what to do with Fields first and foremost. But they have some real potential in Chicago. I hope they don't mess it up. I'd love to see the Bears be competitive again. But Sweat plays for the Bears, They need to sign him and lock him up. And how about some of those players on Incentive Sunday yesterday? Baker Mayfield gets $1 million for winning a game and winning the division for the Tampa Bay, the team you hate, has won 3 straight divisions titles.
The team I hate?
Well, you don't like. You never liked Tampa Bay. You think they suck. They've won.
I'm not against them. I don't really care for any team in the NFL.
They've won 3 straight NFL South titles. But let's talk about Chris Jones, the defensive lineman from Mississippi State, who I bumped into at the Dancing Rabbit Hotel, Casino, and Resort in Philadelphia, Mississippi, and who was very friendly to me and said, "I like your shirt, boy." And I said, "Thank you, Mr. Jones. I like that money you're winning." And he goes, "Thank you, Mr." And I said, "Mr. Cornell." He goes, "Mr. Cornell." Chris Jones had a sack yesterday and needed either just a sack or a half a sack to hit 10. His contract was incentive laden. He had a contract holdout at the beginning of the year. They signed him. He came to practice, skipped training camp, gets a sack yesterday, and the entire team goes bananas. It was the most exciting thing that happened in that game yesterday with the Chargers. And Chris Jones got his $1.2 million bonus for collecting 10 sacks during the year in an incentive-laden contract that the Chiefs gave him. If they don't lock him up long-term, he won't be a Chief next year. And he should be. He wants to be a Chief.
Same thing happened with
David
Clowney.
Yeah,
he's an all-pro. Clowney got a sack for $750,000.
$50,000. He's been a great addition for the Ravens.
So when I was speaking of the incentive thing, when it may have been my last year or one of my years at Buffalo in Chicago, Marty Booker was our wide receiver, and he needed 100 catches, and he got X amount of dollars. I don't know what it was back in those days. Okay. So it was like the last series, we threw wide receiver screen, wide receiver screen, wide receiver screen.
That's awesome. That is so awesome. They tried to get Josh Reynolds $250,000 yesterday in Detroit. They threw it to him as often as they could in the second half in a game against the Vikings to get him in the end zone. It just never worked out. But
Jace, you want to hear an incentive story on my part? Yeah. I don't know if I've ever told you this story. So when I was the backup for Drew Bledsoe in Buffalo, we were it was the last game or maybe the second to last game of the season, and Bledsoe was our quarterback. Well, we were blowing out the 49ers. This was at Candlestick Park.
Yep.
So Malarkey and them put me in for the last quarter. We're ahead big, and he's like, "Look, we need to get you some work. You had played all year. Get you some work if something happens to Bledsoe for the playoffs." And I don't even think we made the playoffs, but we were in the hunt. So we go in there, and the 49ers are blitzing the shit out of us. I mean, and we're trying to just run the clock out. So I checked off to Lee Evans, wide receiver. He was a rookie at the time, and threw a go route. Well, my big incentive in my huge contract, I got $25,000 if I threw one touchdown that year. And Bledsoe knew about it, and we were joking around afterwards. I mean, you had to be there, but I don't think the management really cared for me checking off and throwing a touchdown. But what is $25,000 to a damn Buffalo Bills organization?
Didn't you tell me something also that in that story, Malarkey did not want you doing any of that? He wanted you to hand it off.
Well, they wanted me to run the ball, just run the clock out.
Right. So you checked down to a go route to Lee Evans, and he was like,
it was my last throw in the National Football League.
Why would you?
And it went for a touchdown.
There you go.
And my last throw as a Gator went for a touchdown.
Who caught that ball?
I should know this. I think it's Harrison Houston, maybe, or Willie on a post route in the Gator Bowl. So anyway, speaking of that, did you see what Jameis did for the Saints?
Yeah, Jameis, he decided as a team to score a touchdown. Listen, Arthur Smith has no business yelling at Dennis Allen like that. That just proved that he was on his way out and showed his frustration. He took it out on poor old Dennis Allen. I don't think Dennis Allen, cares. Listen, I don't care in the NFL what you do, what the score is, run up. There's no such thing as that bullshit. You just go ahead and do whatever you want. Like the announcer of this game said yesterday, the color guy said, you can do whatever the hell he wants. This is the NFL. And so I think Arthur Smith was just super frustrated, and Jameis just told us why they did it. And, they don't like Atlanta, and Atlanta doesn't like New Orleans. You ever notice the rivalry between Atlanta and New Orleans in football? It's a real thing. But the Saints came just a little bit short this season. And I don't know what Allen's future is there either, QB. They may leave him, but they may not. They may look for some help. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, JC, before we get you out of here on the Titan Mark text line, this is from Robert. He says, JC, why are you a Rams fan and do you still have their season tickets?
Yeah, no, I let go of those, sold the seat licenses, but I've liked the Rams since I was 9 years old. And Vince Ferragamo was John Hadle was the first quarterback, James Harris was the second, and Vince Ferragamo got us to the Super Bowl against the Steelers. They played it in the Rose Bowl, believe it or not, and the Steelers won, but the Rams kept it close. I've always been a Rams fan, but I haven't really shown that much because they just, they won the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Loved that. They won the Super Bowl against Tennessee in Atlanta with Kurt Warner, the greatest show on turf. Loved that. I've always been a Rams fan. But QB, tonight we've got Washington and Michigan. Now, on the picks, on the Peachland Dental picks, you were correct with Buffalo. I had the Dolphins, but I had Tampa. You had Carolina. So we split those games. You want to go ahead and try tonight?
I had Carolina.
Yeah, I don't know why. Plus, it was 4.5. You thought they would be a field goal game. So,
well, I think it was a bunch of field goals.
It was. It was 3 field goals. It was 3 field goals. Baker's not right. His ribs are hurt. I don't know if Tampa can win this game that they're going to play.
I think the Eagles are done.
I
don't know what's going on with them.
They've imploded completely. I don't understand. Defensively, they can't stop it.
Well, I feel their defense is bad, their offense is bad, and I could be wrong, but they always say this in the National Football League because it's a year round. That's all they do is break down.
They figured out. They figured out.
They figured out Jalen Hurts.
But they figured out Hurts. But you know what else hurt them? Was Shane Steichen leave. They could have used him this year, but I think he may have something there because
there's a lot of upset people in Philly with Brian Johnson who helped coach quarterbacks here. Yeah. So I don't, I don't know if that's the case or not, but sometimes those guys that aren't pure passers, they eventually
get caught up.
They eventually get on you.
Yeah, they get caught up too. You're right. I mean, defensive guys, these coaches, that's all they do is figure out how to stop you. All right, so QB, we got a good one tonight. The total is 56.5. That goes over if it's a Washington style game. It goes under if it's a Michigan style game. But I think Michigan can keep up with Washington if it gets that way. But because of that, give me the 4.5 points. I want to take the Huskies.
All right, I don't really care who wins this.
You like Michigan tonight?
I just think Michigan is going to line up. And they're going to run Blake Corum, and then they're going to play action with J.J. McCarthy. Penix is going to have to play out his mind tonight, I think.
Just like he did Texas, same thing.
Yeah, but I think Michigan's defense is a little bit better than Texas's. But he's going to have to have a spectacular night for them to win. Unfortunately, I think Michigan's going to win the game, and I think they cover.
Okay.
So I'll go opposite of you. JC, I want to get your comments on this, and we'll get you out of here, and we'll take a break. This is from Large Fry on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. He says, speaking of Emmett, do you think Emmett is a proud alum of UF? He seems pretty standoffish with publicity for our school.
Don't know anything about it. Just I don't follow Emmett the same way maybe some other folks do. I think Florida just needs to win some games quietly and just do it. And then all of a sudden you look up and you say, oh my God, they're 6-2. Something like that needs to happen in 2024. It's going to be a schedule that if you look at it, I've talked about this with some people. The very beginning part of that schedule is very doable. It's the latter part of that schedule that they better do well in the first part. Otherwise, it could get really, really ugly. But the latter part of the schedule is harder than the first part. If Florida can just get some wins, man, just win some games, go 4-1, go 5-1. I know it sounds crazy, but that's all it's going to take to change the entire attitude and culture and feeling about this program. But if it doesn't work out that way, it won't get better. It just won't.
Yeah. Mark, appreciate it. My last touchdown was to Harrison Houston on a post route in the fog. JC, this is going to ruffle your feathers, but I want to hear your comments. Rick on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon, says, isn't UF a state-supported school? State resident students should get first choice to get in here.
Yeah,
I mean, that way.
Yeah, listen, it's just changed. The entire standards over there have changed. They've done great things on the academic side. It's a great research school. It is great. But when you're telling me the kids that outperform here in Gainesville, can't get into the University of Florida and are treated no different than anyone else. I just don't know if I like that. And I don't know if it's the same way in other schools. I'm not in charge of admissions. But if you don't think it's different now than it was in the past, you're wrong, because it's very different. And
it's ridiculous. I can go on and on and on how ridiculous it is over there. Because JC, you and I both had a kid that went through the Cambridge academic program at Gainesville High School, which is above all that crap. And and when my son graduated in 2019, the top two, the valedictorian and whatever the second one is called, I'm not smart enough to know what that is, had full rides to Harvard and Yale, okay, and did not get accepted to the University of Florida. So they went to Harvard and Yale. But that tells you how dumb it is.
It is dumb. And I don't understand who's making those calls. And they do have a different president. So far, I couldn't tell who it is. So we don't know what this guy is doing. This guy, Ben Sass, he replaced Ken Fuchs, I think his name was. But that guy wanted to turn this place into Colgate or Cornell or Dartmouth, and I think he did it. And I'm not overly thrilled about that, to tell you the truth. You don't need that. It's a bachelor's degree. Let these kids from Florida come to school at the University of Florida and be Gators. What the hell's wrong with you people over there? And that's the way I look at it. That's just the way I look at it. I could be ignorant about everything. I couldn't care less either. If my kid who goes to GHS, plays football, goes to Cambridge, has a resume that's unbelievable, 100 hours of community service, and an SAT score that I couldn't even pretend to have, and he can't get into Florida, what the hell is wrong with you people over there? So I don't know who's doing it. I don't care anymore. I don't care. He went to Mississippi State. He was better for it anyway. Go Dogs. But I just don't know.
It's ridiculous. I when I'm on with Steve Russell during football season, I raise hell about it.
You should.
And I don't care what they think, but it's ridiculous.
Who cares? Yeah.
Last thing. Yeah. Do you think Derrick Henry retires?
No, I don't. I think he's going to take a free agent. He's 30 years old. I think he's going to take a free agent deal. What a great landing spot it would be for him to go to Jacksonville on a max contract, play for the Jaguars for the next 3 years, and then retire with an 11-year career. What's wrong with that? I mean, why wouldn't he want to do that? Playing, he's from Yulee, which is Duval County. I think it would be a great move for him. But no, I think he's going to find a spot where they're going to give him a max deal somewhere, whatever that deal is nowadays with running backs. And I think that's where he's going to end up. But I do not think he's going to retire. I think he's still got some gas in the tank, dude.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal football player. He's just kind of sad. I saw him, he was talking to the crowd and all that stuff. So
talking to the
it's
fans.
Crazy. They basically said, we don't want you back.
Yeah, well, look, I don't know if Vrabel's going to be back either. And I wouldn't be shocked to see him end up in New England. How about that? He's a Hall of Famer. He's a New England Patriot, thick and thin. Mike Vrabel to the Patriots, Derrick Henry to Jacksonville. What a wild prediction, but it doesn't seem that wild at all when you think about it.
All right, JC. Enjoy the game tonight. We'll see you on Wednesday, my man.
Okay, brother. Thank you. Have a good week. We'll see you
JC.
Wednesday.
Join us on the Titan Tomorrow hotline. We're going to take a quick timeout, come back. I'll get to more of y'all's questions and comments. You're watching and listening to PodUp and Matthews in the Morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We want to take this moment to thank our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Titan MRI, Gainesville's only locally owned and operated MRI facility. Meldon Law, the only official injury and accident law attorneys of the Florida Gators. Peachland Dental, Gator Nation's first choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte. QC Kinetics, live pain-free with QC Kinetics. Campus USA, put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. Dave & Buster's, eat, drink, play, watch. Duffield Home Improvements for your window, siding, and roofing needs. Radware, your local provider of promotional products, uniforms, and apparel. Our gridiron sponsors are Auto ER, UF Bookstores, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm Insurance, Radware, F45, Quality Plumbing. Our touchdown sponsors are Adams Ribs, Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteak, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, Silver Cube Billiards and Sports Bar. If you're interested in promoting your business on the show, call Freddie at 352-284-3733. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to follow us and support the businesses that support us.
Hi there, this is Coach Steve Spurrier, and I want to let you know that by popular demand, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill's delicious brunch is now served in a premium buffet. You have spoken, we have listened, and we're now serving Gainesville's only elevated buffet, complete with an omelet station, ginger sage chicken sausage, shredded short rib, and of course our chicken and waffles. Plus, you can enjoy bottomless mimosas and Bloody Marys. So join us every Saturday and Sunday from 11 to 3 for the best brunch in town.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Silverback Concrete's a family-led team of heavy concrete specialists that build commercial structures with unrivaled quality. Silverback Concrete, you stand on it, we stand by it. I want to thank JC for joining us on the Titan Number Hotline. Tomorrow's program, we're going to have we'll have Buddy Martin in the morning. We'll have Mike Morgan. He's got to do Tuesday. Tomorrow's show, we'll get his thoughts. He called that Jaguars game. We'll talk a little NFL with him, but mostly college basketball. Again, if you missed it, Gators lose a heartbreaker to Kentucky Saturday in the O'Connell Center. Played really well. I like this team a lot. They're fun to watch. I know people say we need to practice our free throws. Trust me, they do that. We're just a poor free throw shooting team as of now. Tonight, the national championship game, Michigan-Washington. I kind of want Washington to win, but I think Michigan's going to win it because of their physicality. I think for Washington to win this game, the wideouts and Michael Penix are going to have a really good night to get it done. So hopefully that game starts not at 8 or 9 o'clock, so I can stay awake and watch them. It says 7:30. I don't know if it kicks off at 7:30. Let's hope it does. Yeah, it says 7:30 kickoff, so that'll be good. A lot of comments here on enrollment at the University of Florida. Yeah, I'm not smart enough to figure all this. I just know it's ridiculous that there are a lot of kids that grew up being Gators coming with their parents to games that had to go to FSU, UCF, or USF, and they were excellent students. But I'm a firm believer that's why the student section has not been what it's supposed to be like for the last 15 or so years. A lot of those people standing as students in there have probably never seen a Florida game until they come on campus. They didn't grow up, but that's just my thoughts on it. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't really care. But there's so many kids that I know that want to come to school here that don't get in, that are great students. There was a text. Oh, regarding the Emmett thing, a lot of people may have saw it or didn't see it. He flew into town to present DJ Lagway with the Gatorade Player of the Year. Emmett was the National Player of the Year as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. They did a little photo shoot and what have you. DJ's on campus along with the other early enrollees, and they start today their first collegiate classes, I believe, or maybe school starts tomorrow. I'm not sure. Real quick here, we got a text on the Titan Mar text line from William. He says, Shane, I really like this basketball team. Wish we could have pulled out a victory against Kentucky, but I think this backcourt will allow us to win a lot of games on the road. I tell you what, boy, Poland and Clayton Jr., they're gutsy. They're good basketball players. They just get it done. Those are those kind of guys that you go on the playgrounds back in the day, they just wore everybody out. I like their game a lot. I like our bigs. I think the biggest issue, as we just mentioned, is free throw shooting. Whether that improves or not, I don't know. But I think this team it looks like an NCAA tournament team to me. My eyes tell me that. Time will tell, though. Reggie says on Facebook Live, every year I see so many kids get turned down and become FSU fans. Hard facts. Yeah, that's true. That is definitely very true. This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life with Campus USA Credit Union. In 2000, in the AFC wildcard game, the Music City Miracle, Tennessee Titans defeat the Buffalo Bills 22-16 in the last 16 seconds when Frank Wycheck throws lateral on the kickoff return to Kevin Dyson. And rest in peace, Frank Wycheck passed away a couple months ago, I guess, or weeks. I still think that ball was thrown forward, though. It's close, but it looks like it was thrown forward to me. But that was a heck of a game. And so hopefully the NFL playoffs that kick off this weekend, I think you got 2 games on Saturday, 3 on Sunday, and 1 on Monday. The Bucks will be hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. They're the Monday night game. Philly's in a spiraling downward. They got some serious issues right now. So it should be a lot of fun. I like the NFL playoffs. And I still like right now, I'm gonna say the Lions are gonna play the Niners in the NFC Championship game, and I'm gonna say Buffalo and the Baltimore Ravens. I don't remember who JC picked at the beginning of the year, but back in August, I picked Cincinnati to play Detroit in the Super Bowl. Only one of those teams are still left. On the Titan Mar text line, says Shane, perhaps they need to bring in a sports psychologist to work with free throw shooters. I'm sure they've done everything. They have all that stuff at the universities nowadays, with along with the nutritionist and all that stuff. If you need some work done, whether it's for you, for your team, or what have you, they have people there to help for sure. Greg says one of the games is on Peacock. You're kidding me. You mean they're not all on national TV? Or is just Peacock another option? I hope that's the case. I don't know why they want to put a playoff game on stuff that people don't even subscribe to. Peachland Dentistry, Gator Nation's #1 choice for dentistry in Port Charlotte surrounding areas. Go visit them at peachlanddental.com. Don't forget our Peachland picks. JC took Washington. I took Michigan tonight. Appreciate everybody joining the program today. We love your questions, your comments. Tomorrow, Buddy Martin and Mike Morgan from the SEC ESPN network will join us, talk a little college basketball, and we'll go from there. Have a great day, folks. See you tomorrow. Take care.